Hi students, I want to welcome you to 575 Management of School Library Programs. I am very excited to be learning with you this semester. I have been working in school libraries for 25 years and a little bit longer time, maybe 38 years in libraries. I'm just truly excited. It's a great time to be a school librarian. It's also a scary time. We'll talk more about that. You can find out pretty much anything you want about me online. I am completely transparent. My goal has been to balance the bad stuff with the good stuff, so I put out as much writing as I can. If it's good, I hope it's good anyway. Anyway, as I said, I've been a librarian since my first trip to library school in 1976. I redid my school library degree in 1988 because I decided I wanted to be a school librarian. And I got my doctorate in 2007 from the University of North Texas. Everything you want to know about me is at about.me /J Valenza. And we'll be talking more about my background later. So first, let me just offer a very warm welcome. You're at the end of your program, at least most of you are, and I am so excited this semester to see what you will plan to grow as new professionals, and I'm so excited also about welcoming you to a profession that I have loved for so long. So let's move forward. We're going to have discussions every week, and sometimes we'll have discussions using tools that are frequently used in schools, for instance, Flipgrid. That will be our conversation platform over the course of the semester. Sometimes there'll be scenarios. In some cases, there'll be just provocative questions, and that's what we'll be looking at this week. I want you to dig into your previous experience, your vision, and just tell us all. We'll have a conversation. It's not going to be just one way. I hope you'll comment on each other's comments. But what does good look like? What does a good school library look like? Think about the ones that you've observed. Think about what you're looking at right now in your field experience. If you're already working in a library, what are the things that you think work? And so we'll be looking at that this week and having, I hope, a really rich discussion. And then at the end of the semester, we'll revisit good. We're going to be looking at what have we learned and what does maybe not just good, but innovative look like as we reflect on our learning. It's absolutely clear that libraries have been changing over the years. This image was one of Enoch Pratt in the 1950s, I believe. And I hope that what you're seeing looks a little different from this, and that you do see the same joy that you see in this old photograph, and that children are experiencing literature together in so many different ways, this way included. I also hope that you see that libraries are not just places to get stuff or have stuff thrown at you, as Hermione does, but we look at library in a slightly different type of metaphor. If we think of library in terms of an old metaphor, I imagine that a lot of people used to think of libraries as grocery stores, places where you come merely to get stuff, as we see in this particular little GIF. But I've come to think of libraries as more kitchens. Everybody wants to be in the kitchen. The kitchen is a place where you go to get stuff, but you also go to kitchens to make stuff. You go to kitchens to taste stuff, to smell stuff, to collaborate in making stuff, to create, to bang around the pots and pans, to invent new recipes, and sometimes to make a little mess. Kitchens are places where sharing happens. Let's think about your pantry which would absolutely be a critical part of your kitchen, as a place where your collection lives. Um, you collect things in a variety of different ways, physically and virtually. And the things you collect, whether they're physical or virtual, should support the learning goals of your organization and the standards to which you're teaching. There is so much to discover and so much to collect, including apps and digital tools we'll be exploring. I am hoping this semester will be filled with ideas for figuring out how to create that pantry of yours, both physically and virtually. Because your library is the largest classroom in your school, I want you to always think of your library as not only a kitchen, but a classroom. I'm sorry about mixing all these metaphors. I used to call my library a laboratory. I think it's important about whatever you call that space and whatever you call yourself that you know you've moved, or that we've all moved historically, from a space that's essentially been transactional to a space that can truly be transformational. It's a place that's participatory, a place for learning, a place where students can achieve the domains of think, create, share, and grow. One of the things I think is essential for you to keep in mind as well, philosophically, is that you don't want to be the piece like that in someone's hand. If you're going to play the game, I don't want you to be a pawn. I want you to be a queen. And I want you to consider strategies for you to get to that particular position on the chessboard. I also believe in one of the essential roles of the school librarian as leader. I believe that you can lead an entire school from the center. You just need to figure out how that will work in your particular school. I also think that regardless of the fact that we've got textbooks for this class and we've got standards, there's really no box. There's no textbook to describe what modern library practice looks like. Together, we're going to explore possibilities, and you're going to come up with a meaning guided by our standards. But I want you to have fun. I want you to be silly. I want you to deliver these standards with your learners in the most exciting way possible, and there is no box to contain you. I want you to recognize that no doesn't necessarily mean no. Wherever you are, if you are strongly and philosophically grounded in what you believe, there's going to be a way for you to get to yes. So don't think no is final. I've been in spaces where administrators have said a definite no, and I've made a persuasive evidence-based case for change. I've also waited around until an administrator left and then was able to make change. So create a plan, but try to get to yes. I know that these are very scary times. I know that some of you will be in more than one library. Some of you will be in an awful schedule. I know that your jobs may be threatened, but I do not want you to see this as a perfect storm. I want you to look for opportunities rather than obstacles. I want you to look for the sweet spots, and I know there are many right now. I want you to develop a clear vision as a teacher librarian. I want you to look down the road. I want you to look in your magic looking glass, and I want you to make some forecasts. You will need to know not just what's going to happen tomorrow in your library, but you're going to make a strategic plan in this class, and you're going to continue those planning efforts far into your career. So you are not looking at tomorrow, but you are looking at a plan that's going to be lasting. I think that in this field, this particular action figure does not describe what I do. I think we need a new action figure who is armed with capabilities, who understands our standards, who defends the philosophies that we believe in, who is not quiet but fierce, who believes his or her importance in ensuring that learners are really effective users and producers of ideas and information. Back to a few of the details for our course. These are our learning objectives. You'll find them in the syllabus as well. Because I want you to be prepared for many of the tools that are popular in K-12 learning, our participation spaces will mirror some of those tools. You'll be building LibGuides, as many, usually secondary school librarians do, but very often elementary as well. We'll be using Flipgrid. We'll be using Twitter. Optionally, I use it as a search tool. Our playlists, as I'll mention in a minute, are on Pantry. We'll use Padlet for reflection. We'll use Wakelet for all sorts of things. And we'll use Zoom for our office hours. And we'll use slides to build collaborative resources. So I look forward to doing that with you. It will be helpful for you to have a camera and microphone for some of our discussions and to use in your projects. It will be helpful for you to have a Gmail account because you'll be using some of our Google tools like Slides, for instance. As I mentioned, a Twitter account. And really, if you have any privacy concerns, there's no problem. We can work on optional ways to achieve the learning goals if we have any issues at all. These days, it is almost impossible to be alone. I remember the old days when I first came into a new school and teachers were very territorial and had locked file cabinets and wouldn't share lessons. These days, people are sharing far more generously and generously online through online learning communities, where in the old days you'd be the only library professional in your school. Right now, you can reach out to librarians around the world for inspirational ideas. The hashtags that you follow or the hashtags that you get active in will help you achieve a great deal of learning and will be a lifeline for you. These are just a few of the ones that I recommend. There are many others. In fact, you'll find a lot of these on our school library headquarters LibGuide, including the Instagrammers, podcasters, and bloggers. And I keep growing this list. So as you discover new important leads for us to follow, please share them with me. There are also a number of popular Facebook groups. These are often private, so you'll have to ask to join and answer a couple of questions. And these are national and international groups that some are very, very active. And as I mentioned in another lecture, you will find the Knowledge Quest blog among the most helpful of the blogs because it's a group blog and because it covers all grade levels and all situations that libraries might be positioned in. I will be sharing later, but you're welcome to look at it right now, a Wakelet on free professional development opportunities. And I'm continuing to add to this. There's so much out there for free that wasn't available before. You may have read that we are going to have Zoom office hours. In fact, you may have attended some of mine even before you were in 575. Tuesday nights, usually at 7:30, and usually Tuesday nights, we'll meet. You can come early and ask any questions. You can also ask questions of the many guests we'll be hosting. And it's so important, while these are optional and voluntary, when we do have guests and you are interested in joining us, it's great for you to be there because it makes our guests feel valued and they love interacting with students. That's the reason they give so generously of their time. They're really committed to this next generation of school librarians. So I hope that you can join us and be active in asking questions and sharing. As I mentioned, we have playlists for each of our weeks. Sometimes there are multiple. These are not meant to be cover-to-cover reads. These are magazines. So if you imagine that you flip through a magazine about our profession and you find the most interesting articles that have to do with your situation, that's what this is for. So don't feel compelled to read or view everything. In some cases, I will asterisk a title of one of these because I think it's more important than some of the others. Get carried away. Please don't feel overwhelmed by these. And please also feel that you'll be able to return to these even after you graduate because I keep these up as a habit of personal knowledge management. So it's my inbox, my storage container, as well as something that I share with you. And I hope you get in the habit of not only curating for others, but curating for your own personal knowledge and professional development. This is a little statement that describes the learning playlists, so you don't get overwhelmed. They really are a magazine, and you will find them embedded in Canvas and also on our LibGuides. As I mentioned, we'll be using Flipgrid, and this first week we're going to reflect on what good looks like. As I also may have mentioned, we're going to go on safaris. I love safaris because I love seeing your discoveries. Wakelet is a great tool. You will have an invitation code, so you won't need an account, although I think you're going to want an account. But on Wakelet, you'll just be able to go shopping across the web and find best practice or effective practice as it relates to a few different categories. We'll find the best librarian presentations. We'll find best practice in expressing learning standards and using anchor charts that can be virtual as well as physical. I love the School Library Design Safari. I think of that as, imagine you're planning a wedding or the colors in your room or the exterior of your house. I want you to together collaborate and create this wonderful palette of design ideas. And I hope that you do that in real life for your personal library someday. And I also want you to look at evidence in a safari. So at one point, we'll create what we think is effective practice in annual and other types of reporting or evidence collecting. So I look forward to going on these safaris with you. Using Padlet, we'll reflect on our learning in mid-semester and then at the end of the semester. I want to see what you're learning. I want you to think about your learning. When you think about your learning and you become metacognitive about this, the learning, it gets stickier. And you think about what you need to know and what thresholds you've crossed. We have a LibGuide for our course, and you'll be referred to that frequently in Canvas. And this stuff will stay up well after you've left Rutgers, unless you come back for further degrees and stay with us. And there's also a relatively new site called School Library Headquarters, which I'm so excited about. And I am maintaining that for the profession and for our alums. So feel free to come back and visit. And it's possible that some of your work for this semester or other courses might get to be an annex on School Library Headquarters. If you're interested in helping out, I love volunteers, and you can put that on your resume, so please let me know. You should have seen this list of assessments. It's a chart that is kind of a Gantt chart, which will help you keep, I think, on top of the assignments that you have. Largely, there are going to be three big projects. One is an environmental scan of the community in the library. The second is your needs assessment, strategic plan, and board presentation. That package is largely your strategic plan, the pieces of it, the deliverables. And then finally, you'll do a critical issues, hot topics workshop for an adult group. I know you've done lesson plans before, largely in 514 and probably in 515. But this is going to be meeting the needs of an adult group of stakeholders. The assignment descriptions are pretty thorough, but please reach out if you need any advice. And you'll see exemplars in Canvas for many of these. So you can, I hate the idea of people using exemplars and feeling restricted by them. But if you need to see the different ways people may have expressed themselves in these assessments, then look to them for a little inspiration. Please reach out to me if you need anything. I can generally solve a problem in 5 minutes, and sometimes I hear from people that they were struggling with some little thing for hours when we really could have just quickly fixed things. You can show up early for our Tuesday night office hours, or you can drop me a line and we can set up an appointment. We could do Zoom or phone, whatever works for you. I'm good at moving around platforms. So I really don't want to hear that you've been struggling on your own. So please talk to me. Shifting gears a little bit, And back to the subjects of our course. In the next week or so, we're going to be looking at the entire school environment. I want you to think about in what ways the classroom teachers you're observing, in what ways are their jobs different from the job of a teacher librarian? In what ways are they the same? Some of you are coming to this course directly from the classroom, and you'll have pretty in-depth reflections on this, and I really look forward to hearing from the educators in the class because you're going to offer some rich perspectives for us. Some of us are new to the K-12 arena entirely. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be looking at the history of school as an organization. We're going to be looking at its culture. We're going to be looking at leadership and change theory and strategy. I'm hoping that you'll be able to step back from the school that you know or the schools that you knew and think about school as an organization. Think about how change happens in a school environment. Think about how you might be the one who leads positive change. We'll also be examining, starting next week, the people that inspire you. I've mentioned the bloggers, the podcasters, the Instagrammers. I want you to really think about culling that list. Who are the practitioners and researchers as well who will most impact your practice? Who will be the key people in your network, whether you call it a PLN, professional or a personal learning network, or simply an online community of practice. And of course, you'll also have a physical, I hope, face-to-face community of practice. And back to the task at hand for this week. This week, we will really look at good. Before we look at change, we'll look at what isn't broke, what do you think is working, and what do you think appropriately good is. And because we have a baseline for comparison at the end of the semester, we'll be able to reflect on what we've learned by reflecting again on what we think good or innovative looks like at the end. So it's really important for me that you come out of this class ready for school library practice, ready and able to demonstrate your passion for this profession and your passion for those children you teach. It's also important to me that you know who you are and what you stand for as an information professional and an education professional. I want you to seriously consider the most important question. How will you make a difference in the lives of your students? How will you empower them to think, create, share, and grow?